The air was thick with dampness, as if the stones themselves wept in mourning. Alicia knelt in the underbelly of St. Remigius Monastery, where the walls remembered every cry ever swallowed in fear. Her breath rose in soft clouds, kissed by the cold, while a droplet of melted wax traced a red line down her forearm. Slow. Deliberate, like the path her life had taken to this place. The rope at her wrists had long soaked into her skin, leaving wheels that pulsed with each heartbeat. Outside, the feast bell rang for Michaelmas, roast goose, pear wine, sweet oat cakes. But here, beneath the cloister, only the sound of her hunger remained. She had once healed with rosemary boiled in rainwater, whispered prayers into poultices tucked under infant tongues, read the skies when wheat would fail. Her father called her gifted. Her bishop called her dangerous. And so the charge came not as thunder, but as echo, superstitio, femina, heresy. A charge of being too much, too knowing, too alive, too unafraid to speak in the presence of men robed in Latin and law. A monk entered carrying the book and the brand. One for confession, the other for correction. Alicia did not lift her eyes. She was trying to remember her mother's hands, how they smelled of lavender and ash, how they smoothed her hair during storms. But even those memories were dimming, smothered beneath incense and accusation. They asked for her first confession. She said, "Only I meant to heal." Her voice cracked, not from guilt but from thirst. The friar made no reply. He dipped the iron into the flame. Behind her, the wooden door groaned shut. A raven cried from the abbey roof. The world, once fragrant with herbs and laughter, was now reduced to smoke, salt, and silence. Snow fell like confession from heaven, slow, soundless, unjudging, cloaking the convent roof in white silence. Beneath it, in a cell lined with faded frescoes and frost-laced stone, Sister Madalena sat on her knees, hands folded, not in prayer, but in memory. Her psalter, once adorned with delicate script and small bursts of blue pigment, now lay bare, scraped clean by blades meant for parchment, not flesh. The page bore no ink, yet still bled with meaning. Ghosts of her words remained in the fibers. Eve wept, not from shame, but from knowing. A line that had cost her everything. She had written what she was never taught to feel. A tenderness for doubt, a mercy for womanhood outside silence. She painted the Virgin barefoot. She painted Magdalene with a lifted chin. Her ink did not accuse, it remembered. That, they said, was rebellion. At the evening meal, her sisters passed bread without glancing her way. A cup was set for her but never filled. Her veil, one symbol of her consecration, was stripped, leaving her hair exposed to the bitter air, to the watching eyes of those who feared what she might still believe. In the chapel, where bells once welcomed her into holy obedience, she now knelt alone beneath an unlit crucifix. No charges were read, no verdicts declared. Her silence was the sentence. And in this cloister of invisible punishments, it was not flames that devoured the heretic. It was ritual forgetting. Her name was still spoken in the register. Her footsteps still echoed in the morning procession. But she had already vanished. Outside her cell, a single sparrow landed, head tilted, as if listening for a voice that no longer dared to rise. Inside, Madalena whispered not to God, but to herself. "I remember." The mud clung to her ankles like accusation, thick and unrelenting, as the villagers lined the square with narrowed eyes and shuttered mouths. Isolde walked with the grace of someone who had delivered life in candlelit barns, who had stitched wounds with thread boiled in lavender and lye. Her gown, once simple linen, now bore the tears of thorns and spittle. The rope at her waist, tight as doctrine, carved into her ribs, each step a prayer swallowed in pain. Her hands, calloused from years of midwifery and mourning, were bound not for what they had done, but for what they remembered. The charge was not spoken aloud, only hinted at in whispers and glances, that she had challenged the priest's hunger for coins over compassion, that she had asked why the bread blessed by God never reached the mouths of widows, that she had dared as a woman to speak aloud the ache of the poor. Dangerous, they said, not because she cast spells, but because she told the truth. Children were hushed when they looked at her, but they did look. At her bare scalp, where once silver-blonde hair fell like winter sun. At her spine, still straight, still proud, Even as the wooden stocks came into view, a dog barked in the distance. A bell rang faintly from the church behind them, tolling not for the guilty, but to remind the village of who held power. Iseult said nothing as her head was forced forward, chin to chest. But in her silence was something older than defiance. It was memory, her daughter's laughter in spring, a birth saved with her own bloodied hands. The name of every woman they had forgotten, and somewhere beyond the crowd a blackbird took flight. The candles shuddered in the draught, its flame bending low as if afraid to witness what the walls already knew. Chains clinked softly as Benedetta shifted, her ankle bones bruised where iron met flesh. The cell stank of mildew and extinguished hope, a smell that had clung to generations of those accused, not of sin, but of being too steadfast in love, to articulate in grief, too unafraid to exist without permission. The stone floor was slick beneath her knees, and in the silence between footfalls above, she mouthed the words of a psalm she had once rewritten. Domini, nitatius meum luctum. Lord, do not silence my mourning. She had not worn a veil, or taken vows before any bishop, yet she lived in prayer, the kind not bound to walls, but to need. During the plague, she had walked barefoot through streets veiled in ash, laying cloth on the dying, whispering comfort when no priest would come. She'd written of God as a mother who weeps when daughters are broken. That was the fire they feared, not witchcraft, not demons, but the theology of tenderness born from a woman's suffering. Now under torchlight that cast her body a shadow against stone, the Inquisitor asked again, "Did you consort with spirits?" She met his eyes and said nothing. But inside her, something stirred, not rebellion, but clarity. Her silence was not surrender. It was a shield. Outside, a raven beat its wings once more against the frost-bitten bars. It did not flee nor sing, it simply stayed. Like her, waiting, holding watch. Beneath the tower in a cell meant to erase her, Benedetta prayed, not for rescue, but that someone, someday, would remember the sound of her name.